that Jason Banana Finds, most people know Banana Finds. He sent me this article and said, "Have you read this? This is probably an interesting topic for a show." And the article is on Yahoo News, and there it is discussing. I've got a link to it in the description below if you want to read it for yourself. Just the tactics that Amazon employees. It made it sound like it's more of nobody's controlling their employees. So in order to gain advantage in their jobs, they would access data that they weren't supposed to according to their data policies in order to build their private listings. And the thing that's scary is clothing. If you read the article, they've had terrible success in clothing, which, you know, to build a clothing brand, it takes Levi Strauss didn't happen overnight. Nike didn't happen overnight. There are very few clothing brands that you look at and go, man, they're just all of a sudden, you know, there are some of these celebrities that have made clothing lines here lately, but they bring a different, when a celebrity tells you versus a company tells you, there's a difference. But the thing that was scary was 30 to 40% of the top 100 items in electronics are Amazon private label products that they have developed using these techniques. It's part of the antitrust lawsuit that is moving against Amazon through the European Union. Crickets. John doesn't seem to think it's as big a deal as.
It's not. I do the same freaking thing they do.
Yeah.
I'm in a millionaires club that's got 300. I think we're at $347 million sellers on Amazon. That we do over $1 billion a year in total sales volume. We have connections at actual people we can call at Amazon. We all do the same thing. They may have a little more data than we have. What they have is the ability to analyze the data better because they're able to put one person on one product. I do this day in and day out. You know, I just wrote about this. Think about Christmas, all right? You're all out there chasing bolos, the hottest toy, and I'm waiting to see how many resellers get hurt this year because Amazon's in stock more and more and more year after year after year. Well, I went back over my data for the last 3 years to project what I'm going to do this Q4. So guess what? Come in on one of my products and you're going to find out it's going to be extremely hard to find something that I sell out of at Christmas. I'm using my own data to make my business better.
Yeah, but they're using your data and your sales and see, the problem is when you've got an entity that controls access to the data and controls what it allows you to see, and then uses against its own policies data that it shouldn't be accessing in order to get an advantage over you in a marketplace where they tell you to jump or get off their platform. It depends on what do you consider Amazon a monopoly. If you consider Amazon a monopoly, it is bad practice. If you just consider them a run-of-the-mill company, they're just another competitor. It's part of doing business, and I think that's where you have to draw a line. Do you think Amazon is a monopoly? Is it an online monopoly? Then if it is, and it's control to data and it's access to data, whether it doesn't allow you to see it, but it uses it against you, that becomes monopolistic practices, which are no good. That's my problem. It's not about forecasting sales. It's not against anything. They are using data that they don't allow anyone else access to, and they claim they don't use it, but they're using it anyway to build private label to compete against you.
The way the article,
so does Walmart,
yeah,
so does Target, so does everybody. The difference is Amazon has so much access, so much more data to analyze. Every big business does it.
The way the article read, it seems like it's an employee issue where they have to come up with these new ideas. And once they get access to this particular part of the program, they have full access, which they shouldn't, is the way I read it.
Yeah, because the article is written from several ex-employees.
Right.
And so that's my issue with the whole thing is if Amazon sees it's a problem and they have set up rules in their company with what they can and can't do, and then employees go against their policies, Amazon recognizes that it's a problem. So, because
in the article, Amazon, whoever they quoted from Amazon, said that this is not an allowed practice. Now, what measures they take to enforce it, they didn't say. Now, they said there's measures that they take to enforce it, but they didn't say what they were. You know, the policy.
Yeah, it said something like, you know, they can't get in through the normal channels, but once they have access through the warehouse data or whatever.
They have everything.
Yeah.
And anybody in the position that those employees are in are going to use that data because it gets them an edge. You know, it gives them an edge in their job. They don't look at it as your data or my data. They look at it as Amazon's data, and that's part of their job is to analyze that and make a private label product. I mean, I think I would probably do the same thing if I was an employee and I didn't, and I needed to get ahead. You know.
Okay, then what do you do to combat it?
You can't.
What do you do? What do you mean you can't? You're crazy. Of course you can.
Well, what do you do then, John?
You have to build a business. Stop chasing shiny objects and sit down and actually build a freaking business that you can compete with them. Not on their platform. They have developed a customer base that they use for their advantage. And you know what? If I was Amazon, I'd tell you all to kiss my butt too. Kiss the ring. They built it on their blood, sweat, and tears. They're the ones that stuck their neck out with the customer service from day one.
Here's the problem as I see it, is they lay out all these rules about you've got to kiss the ring, you've got to jump up and down, you've got to play by their games, you got to do everything. And then they go against their own policies to build private label stuff. The article even goes as far as we would order products from customers to reverse engineer them. So here's what they're doing. They're finding out on what you've worked your ass off, John, to build this business, and all they're gonna go, well, look, illegally through our own policies, we're gonna decide that this is something good. You know, let's get a Chinese company to come in, and now we have set the marketplace so tilted against you, John, as us, Amazon, the seller, that we are now going to crush you because in Amazon's world, you're a small. And this little 5 circle, you're a big seller, but against Amazon, you're nothing. And they leverage the power they have against you, and they do this all the time.
But Amazon can't put me out of business.
They can put you out of business tomorrow.
On Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah.
Well, then it's like, for example, this hat, my brother designed it, right? So you're saying that they're seeing the sales of the hat, and if the hat is doing extremely good, they're going to create a clone. They're going to create something better, right?
Similar.
And probably people are going to end up buying their product because it's going to be better. They have more money to create it, better quality.
Here's my problem with it. Everything Scott said, I've done.
Yeah, but
everything Scott has said, Coke does with Pepsi. If you don't think Coke goes out and buy Pepsi Cola and test every one of their products down to exactly how many grains of sugar in our can of soda, you're out of your mind. I have ordered products on Amazon and tried to reverse engineer them. I have used sales data from the data that I have available to make a decision on if I'm going to buy it or not. We all have. We call that sales rank. Now, Amazon has better data than we have. But you know what? Major League Baseball has better access to data than college teams. It's just a fact. Instead of bitching about it, go find something to do to protect yourself. If you notice, I have talked the last 6 months about how I'm coming off of Amazon and expanding my eBay. My eBay sales are up 39% today, as of today, over the last 30 days. I'm looking for other avenues other than Amazon.
The problem is they have better data because they control access.
There.
Yeah, well,
and they don't control their own employees' access, and so if you violate, John, if you violate one of their policies today, did they seem that you have done something bad, they're going to squash you. What do they do to themselves? They squash you too. There's nobody that polices the. It's like somebody said, it's the Wild West. You know, this is how Amazon built their business with these kind of tactics through the early 2000s. They didn't start FBA and all these things in order to make life easier for sellers. You know, at the end of the day, Amazon is a data company, 100% a data company.
Scott says Amazon owns 80% of John's business. No, they don't. You're not even close. They do. I do have debt with Amazon, but not 80%. And I wouldn't be the first company that went belly up.
I suppose it matters what you're when you sign up to sell on Amazon, you're signing a contract with that company. Correct. Does any of what they're doing go against what that contract states? And I doubt it does, because you give them access to all that data because you sign that contract.
That's another part of the problem that they're dealing with the monopoly is because, you know, their terms of service are pretty slanted against you.
But you willingly sign that when you go in. You know, if you read it, you should know ahead of time.
Taylor's Place says that is asking, is it Amazon doing the private label or their employees? It's Amazon themselves.
And the employees.
The problem with Amazon is Amazon has a ton of capital. Sure. A ton of capital. If you had that kind of capital and that kind of network and that kind of capability, you could, you don't need the data. You can do it right off the top 100, guys. It's not complicated what they're doing. It's really not that complicated.
Yeah, to private label the top 100, and it's not that complicated.
It's really not that complicated. It takes some capital. It takes a lot of logistics, but you don't need that much freaking data to understand what people want to buy. Now, Scott said at the beginning of the show, fashion, different story. But when it comes to like electronics, you want to do housewares, you want to do furniture, you want to do whatever it is you want to do, you can go in and find the top 100, actually focus on a niche. I don't know who says that. And you would actually see what happens over a year of time. You'd be going, oh, look at this guy. He went from here to here with this product. These are the ones that are selling more than the other ones because you can see by sales rank where it's positioned. I'm going to copy that product. It's exactly what I did. I started with the top 100 list and said, okay, this is the product I want to sell. I went to Dollar Tree and sourced the product, put it together. I sold out of Dollar Tree stock, went to China and said, okay, I need this product packaged this way with this sticker on top of it, and started bringing in container loads. I mean, it's what I did. I'm not doing anything different than Amazon. If you're mad at Amazon, you got to be mad at me.
Well, we all look at competitors.
Maybe a little bit better because of the sales numbers. They can go, okay, we don't want to bring in a full container. We will bring in a half a container to start. But
so what's I mean, you said there are 30 to 40% of the top sellers in electronics. You would surely think that it would be higher than that if they were really, you know.
But you got to realize the top 100 electronics name brands still do carry some weight in that category.
Sure.
Especially Apple.
You got Apple.
They can't compete with Apple.
You got Sony. You've got some heavy players in that market that
I guess electronics is probably a less private label type area anyway, because it is just like clothing. Clothing is so hard to compete in.
well, just think about Amazon Basics and we're top 100. Do people buy more cameras or do they buy more accessories to cameras? And so if you look at the top 100 electronics, it's a lot of cables, it's a lot of cases, it's a lot of accessories because those things can be easily made, and they're not as name brand conscious. So it was just an interesting article. I thought it'd be interesting just to see what
I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand they may have the ability to project a better sales number to take over the market, but nobody is in a position to go after a market other than Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
have to understand. Go ahead, Steve.
If you think about it, we all do. You're right, John. We all do the same thing. We all have apps and Chrome extensions and things to give us sales data for competitors' prices, or how many people are. I use AMZ Scout just to see how many people are on it. Now, it's not the same level, obviously.
And the issue for me is they control access to that data. And
that's true.
And the issue for me is whenever you're saying, we're not going to give this to our sellers or make it access to the public because of whatever, and we're not even going to use it, but we use it anyway. There needs to be some internal controls. How hard can it be to build firewalls and build access points? John is building access in his company over who can do what using a simple program as LastPass. And you can't tell me that Amazon can't figure out how to control access to the data and segregate all this data so that you have to be certain levels to get into it.
Give me Amazon's money. I don't need the data. Give me their capital. I don't need the data. You don't need the data, Scott. You don't. I'm just saying. Once you have that top 100 list, you can work your way through that list and take over if you have the capital.
See, the problem is the top 100 gets copied so much. If you want to sustain a private label business, that's where you don't start. You should start anywhere.
Well, I'm keeping my mouth shut about where to start on that. I mean, I give out a lot of information. You want that, you're paying. You're going to pay big money to know where I start on something. But listen, I'm number 2 to Amazon in a category. I've been number 2 to Amazon for 2 years. I'm like Pepsi is to Coke. It ain't hurting my business.
And y'all can keep all the Pepsi you want. Ugh.
Yeah, I live in Atlanta. I'd say the same thing.
All right. Well, let's.
I mean, honestly,
hey, with somebody, with one of the moderators, get rid of Mr. Cygnus Fortnite for whoever he's effing off.
Companies now, I mean, data is big business now. That's why every store has their little card. That's why.
Oh, I'm not even going there.
Facebook, listens to you on the phone. Data is everything these days.
Mr. Sadie said a little while ago, if you send an email to your friend about something you're thinking about, all of a sudden you get pop-up ads for it.
I think I'd have more of an issue if and maybe they do. I don't know, but I've never run into it personally. But if I sell a product and then Amazon automatically says, "Oh my God, that's a great selling product," you're not allowed to sell that product anymore. I would have more of an issue if they're using the data for those kind of purposes. Restricting people and only becoming exclusive in a certain, even a name brand product.
I think for most people, the vast majority of people is retail arbitrage or some form of that. They watch this show. I can tell you one thing: as long as you are continuing in stock, Amazon generally leaves you alone. There are some exceptions, and they do it. If you prove to them you're in stock, John will tell you 100%. If you prove to them you keep it in stock, Amazon goes away because at the end of the day, a lot of their the catalog is important to them. They have the largest online catalog of anybody in the U.S. I'm not sure about Alibaba, but
I could tell you other things about what Amazon does around your product, but you know, I'm not giving out all this information anymore.
All right, so
I just don't give it out anymore. You want it, you pay for it. Ask Debbie.
So I'm gonna kill the banner. So anybody have anything?
But one last point, you have to understand something. Everybody's after Amazon about this data, and it's really not the data. They have the capital to do these things. It's really not the data. It is the money behind them to take over these markets like they are.
Which they got by using the data.
No, they got it, but the reason Amazon's as big as they are, and I'll give you the perfect example. I walked into Walmart yesterday. My wife's sick. Walked into Walmart yesterday. The pharmacist said 20 minutes, the prescription will be ready. My wife went back after 20 minutes. They said, oh, no, it'll be at least another half an hour. I finally got the store manager over there, and he was like, well, I was like, well, nothing. This is why Amazon takes over the world. Amazon started with one concept. The customer is always right no matter what. And if you say, but, they tell you to go back to the customer is right. They built their entire business on customer service. They have loyal customers. That's where they got the money from. Their customers come back over and over and over again. I'm thankful we can sell on their platform.
No, I'm definitely thankful for it. It's changed my life. There are some things I'd like for them to change different, but you know, the article was sent to me. I didn't see